so happy to be here in Puerto Rico. And, that question was asked of me of where I would go outside of the country. And I'm happy to be here at Somos. And I'm happy also to be here because you cannot tell the story of New York City without telling the story of Puerto Rico. And even just going to that parade and Puerto Rico no se vende, the chants, the convictions of so many of a life of decency. And it's been a joy to be here. I'm proud to report that in the few hours I've been here, I've already had some mofongo, and it's great.
Well, joining me now to discuss is the president of the Center of the American Experiment, John Heindereker. John, welcome back to the show. It's great to talk to you, as always. What is going on in New York?
Well, first of all, let me say this, Jack. People like Stephen Colbert and others in the press are hailing this week's wins by the Democrats as major victories. The fact is there were only elections in a couple of states, and they were Democratic states. So the fact that the Democrats won is not a great revelation. If those elections had been in Texas and Florida, the Republicans would have won, would have been a good night for Republicans. And of course, New York City is a very liberal jurisdiction. And sure enough, against a couple of weak opponents, the firebrand socialist Zohran Mamdani did win. And so we'll have to see whether he can make good on any of his socialist promises.
Well said. It all started out positive, but then it quickly morphed into aggressive class warfare.
Now I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system.
His rhetoric was so extreme that even CNN started to pause. Off the back of that speech, Van Jones raised concerns about the dramatic switch of character from a friendly, charismatic everyman to an authoritarian, hardline class warrior.
I think he missed an opportunity. I think the Mamdani that we saw on the campaign trail, who was a lot more calm, who was a lot warmer, who was a lot more embracing, was not present in that speech. And I think that Mamdani is the one you need to hear from tonight. There are a lot of people trying to figure out, can I get on this train with him or not? Is he going to include me? Is he going to be more of a class warrior even in office? I think he missed a chance tonight to open up and bring more people into the tent. I think his tone was sharp. I think he was using the microphone in a way that he was almost yelling. And that's not the Mamdani that we've seen on TikTok and the great interviews and stuff like that. So I felt like there's a little bit of a character switch here where the warm, open, embracing guy that's close to working people was not on stage tonight, and there was some other voice on stage.
Yeah, John, it's good to see some honest observations from Van Jones, but I do feel like CNN hasn't been listening to what this guy has been saying on the campaign trail, what he's actually been promising to do, these very, very radical ideas, including, state-owned supermarkets, all of the class warfare rhetoric. It's really funny to me now for CNN to say, oh, gee, we didn't realize he was into this class warfare stuff.
Among many other things, Mamdani says he wants to raise taxes on white neighborhoods. Well, number one, he doesn't have any power to do that as mayor. But number two, that would obviously be illegal and unconstitutional. And that should be some kind of a clue that this guy is not in the mainstream. And so I think you're exactly right. By the way, let me add, too, that Van Jones earlier in his career was considered to be a far left firebrand. In the last few years, he has really become a voice of sanity on CNN. And I think he makes a good point here.
Is this a strategic decision by CNN to appeal to a more moderate base, to not seem as inflammatory? What do you make of that that broadcast strategy to actually get these opinions in, because we didn't see it even a few years ago, before Trump won the last election. We didn't see this sort of commentary bleed through into panels.
Well, CNN has got, I think, one conservative in their stable, and Van Jones is relatively safe. It's going to take more than that for me to be convinced that CNN is in the middle of the political spectrum. I think they still have a long way to go. But, their ratings are terrible. And they ought to be trying to moderate their content so they can appeal to a broader audience.
Yeah, well, staying on CNN, now to some major breaking news.
We begin with major breaking news out of Washington involving one of America's longest-serving and most powerful members of Congress. I want to now bring in CNN's Dana Bash. Dana, what are you learning this morning?
Well, Sarah, we have learned that the former Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, will retire from Congress at the end of this term. She will not run for re-election in her San Francisco seat, the one that she's held for almost 40 years. It spanned 7 presidents. She, of course, was the first and so far only female Speaker of the House. She broke what she called the marble ceiling in 2007, then led Democrats back to the majority during Donald Trump's first term, took the gavel back for a second time, famously and proudly became Trump's chief antagonist.
John famously became Donald Trump's chief antagonist. Isn't it funny, the qualifiers that journalists use to introduce people? When it's Nancy Pelosi, all of a sudden, she's the most powerful, brave, first female anti-Trump antagonist. You wouldn't see them do a breaker like that if it was on the other side of politics, would they?
You certainly wouldn't. If we had a Democratic president, you wouldn't hear that kind of admiring talk about Mike Johnson, the current Speaker of the House, who, of course, is a Republican. And no, this coverage is so partisan always. But, Nancy Pelosi's retirement is not a surprise at all. She's very elderly. And in the House, unlike the Senate, the minority really has no power. If you're in the minority, you might as well go home, basically. And so Nancy Pelosi has decided to go home to San Francisco.